The storm hit Islington with the fury of a demon. Wind howled through the quaint English village, tearing at roofs and uprooting ancient oaks. Rain lashed down in blinding sheets, flooding the cobblestone streets. Then, as abruptly as it began, the storm ceased. An unsettling silence descended, broken only by the drip of water and the rustle of leaves. But most unsettling of all was the darkness. The storm had snuffed out every light in Islington, plunging the village into an impenetrable blackness. Inside her cottage, Elsie shivered, clutching a flickering candle. The power outage was one thing, but the oppressive silence that followed was something else entirely. It felt heavy, pregnant with unseen menace. The storm had stirred something primal within her, a deep-seated fear of the unknown that whispered of ancient legends and creatures of the night. Elsie tried to dismiss the childish fears. It was just a storm, she told herself. A particularly nasty one, but a storm nonetheless. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. Something lurked in the impenetrable darkness beyond her doorstep. Something that watched and waited. Elsie's grandmother used to tell her stories, chilling tales whispered around crackling fires on stormy nights like this. The most terrifying of them all was the legend of the rolling calf, a creature of pure darkness. It roamed the countryside during storms, dragging heavy chains and seeking lost souls to claim. Its eyes glowed red in the dark, and its moo was a sound that chilled the very marrow. The legend claimed that the rolling calf was once a farmer who made a deal with the devil for wealth and prosperity. But the devil, as always, demanded a steep price, the farmer's soul. When the farmer refused to pay, the devil, in his fury, transformed him into the monstrous rolling calf, condemned to wander the earth for eternity. Elsie had always dismissed the story as an old wives' tale, but tonight, shrouded in darkness and silence, the legend took on a chilling reality. The image of the rolling calf, eyes burning bright, chains clinking ominously, filled her mind. The hair on the back of her neck prickled with a fear she couldn't ignore. A sudden sharp rap on the window startled Elsie. Her heart hammered in her chest as she peered into the darkness, but she could see nothing. The wind, perhaps, or maybe a branch, loosened by the storm. Yet a nagging unease lingered. Mrs. Periwinkle, her elderly neighbor, lived alone. Elsie knew she should check on her. Mustering her courage, Elsie grabbed a heavy iron poker from beside the fireplace, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. Steeling herself, she stepped out into the night. The darkness was absolute, its silence deafening. Taking a shaky breath, Elsie began to make her way along the muddy path, each step filled with trepidation. She had barely taken a few steps when a figure emerged from the shadows. Elsie gasped, her grip tightening on the poker. It was Old Man Withers, his face a mask of fear in the pale moonlight that broke through the clouds.
"Don't go out there, girl," he rasped, his voice trembling. "Not tonight. The rolling calf is out. I've heard its chains."
Old Man Withers' words sent a shiver down Elsie's spine. She wanted to dismiss his warning as the ramblings of an old man, but the fear in his eyes was undeniable.
"Mrs. Periwinkle, she's alone," Elsie stammered, her voice barely a whisper. "I need to check on her."
"You're a brave girl, Elsie, but even the bravest souls are no match for the likes of the rolling calf. Go back inside, child. Lock your doors and pray it doesn't find you."
Ignoring his warnings, Elsie continued on her way, her heart pounding in her chest. As she walked, she thought she heard a noise, a low guttural moo that seemed to come from the very depths of the night. It was followed by a metallic clang, like chains dragging across the ground, sending shivers down her spine. The air grew heavy, thick with a palpable sense of dread. The smell of damp earth and something else, something metallic and ancient, filled her nostrils. Then, through the darkness, she saw it. 2 points of crimson light like malevolent embers appeared in the distance. The rolling calf. Panic surged through Elsie's veins. She broke into a run, her breath catching in her throat. The chains clanged louder now, closer, accompanied by the rhythmic thud of hooves against the soft earth. The red eyes grew larger, brighter, burning with an infernal light. Reaching Mrs. Periwinkle's cottage, Elsie hammered on the door, her heart threatening to burst from her chest.
"Mrs. Periwinkle, open up, it's Elsie!" she screamed, her voice raw with terror.
"Elsie, thank heavens, get in quickly!"
Elsie didn't need to be told twice. She scrambled inside, slamming the door shut behind her. The sound of heavy breathing, hot and fetid, reached them from the other side of the thin wood. The rolling calf had arrived. Elsie and Mrs. Periwinkle huddled together in the darkness, listening in terror as the rolling calf raged outside. They could hear it pacing back and forth, its chains clanging against the stone walls of the cottage. The red glow of its eyes pulsed through the cracks in the curtains, casting ominous shadows that danced on the walls. Hours passed, each one an eternity. The storm raged on outside, mirroring the terror that gripped their hearts. Finally, as dawn began to paint the sky with hues of gray and purple, the sounds from outside ceased. The rolling calf was gone. Shaking and exhausted, Elsie and Mrs. Periwinkle emerged from their hiding place. The storm had subsided, leaving behind a trail of devastation in its wake. But for Elsie, the true horror lay not in the storm's fury, but in the chilling certainty that the rolling calf was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the next storm to unleash its terror once more.